Hello lovely people and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie and this is Evolve Chit. It's my little corner of the world where I like to talk about spirituality, metaphysical stuff, universal laws, and psychology. So in this video I am going to answer some questions that people have left in the comments of some recent videos. And the questions that were asked make me think that it would be a good idea to talk about this whole idea of being in soul and what it means to be in your heart space, or aligned, you're aligned with like your highest vibration. I want to talk about all the some energy body stuff. So someone had asked, how do you energetically shift into the state of love, and then how do you need to be in your heart space? Is it necessary to be in your heart? And that was the question, and I'm going to assume that it means that, to connect with your twin flame, do you need to be in your heart space? So I'm going to share my opinion on these two topics, but I thought it would be a good idea just to talk about this whole idea of, what this notion is of being in soul or getting in soul. So if you follow a lot of other content or consume this kind of content, you probably have come across those phrases before. And the whole idea of that is like, where are we not in alignment with the energy of love? So over the years I had happened upon that quiz, which I think I found on Cassidy Kane's website, the Twin Flames 1111 website. And she has a quiz out there. I'll drop it in the description. And the first time that I took it, which was probably it was probably very quickly on after I found her content. So I would say when I was triggered by all the twin flame stuff, it was probably 6 months in that whole process that I came across this. And I took the quiz, and I look back on it, it was at that time I was in a state of love. And I guess for that time I could have been, but I also wasn't really all that self-aware. I was self-aware, but it was in a superficial way, or probably as deeply as I could meet myself at that point in time. And the experience with this person at that point, that person I call my fake twin flame, and it was, I really thought I was in that place, but that person kept triggering me, and it was just showing me things about my beliefs, or how I felt about myself, or how I felt about relationships or other things, or my own value and worthiness. It kept showing me that, and it was almost like it was like breaking me open, this whole idea of kintsugi. It was like, as soon as I would work through an emotion and I could fill that crack, with some gold, another one would open, and I would work through this. But then I realized I was breaking my own heart. So I had to figure out where in this process, I was allowing myself to not be in what I believe our natural state is, a state of love. It's not like we were born with no love, and then all of a sudden, we're trying to build back to that. It's no, we're trying to return to that state of love. You see all these beautiful reels on social media, with little kids, and how they interact with each other. It doesn't matter what they look like or their background or ethnicity. It's just they want to hug each other or celebrate each other. And then these things that divide us, we're taught that. And just using that scenario, we our programming, our beliefs, they keep us from being in that highest state achievable, which is a state of love. So I took that quiz a number of times, and and each time, looking back on it now, I could see where I'm not where I'm at now. I can tell you that. And, being in a state of love, like I'm still shedding stuff, even with this awareness. So there are days that I would say now that I'm more in that state than not. And then there are times where it's like I have to work at being in that state because I'm working through some sort of emotion or something. The big difference, though, is that before I could be like checked out for a long time. So I could be distracted or maybe just caught up in something. And a long time varies. Like a long time to me now would be anything more than like a day or two, where maybe I'm working through some emotions, but I'm aware of it. Before I didn't have that level of self-awareness. I was just kind of like operating out of whatever my like push or pull was, dependent upon the situation. So that created my emotions. So I didn't have a lot, even though I was like into all the metaphysical stuff for a really long time, and I understood a lot of these concepts. I didn't realize how much I was acting out of like just trauma or ego or, whatever you want to call it. But I was acting more out of that, like mask or avatar, than I was being in my, myself. And that was just a lot of self-acceptance or things that I was hard on myself about. Like I had to work through a lot of these things, and those things I could see when I was triggered by my fake twin flame and when I was triggered by the person who I believe is my twin flame. I could see where they were showing me those dynamics were showing me where I needed to address some issues. I had some emotions that were unchecked. I was being hard on myself about things. And I can see how so much of it was just rooted back to, some other challenging situations, especially from my marriage. So that's what it did. And, if this twin flames thing is real, then a lot of the stuff that I talk about in my videos is what I have attempted to do and have done to balance that energy, or using tools like astrology and numerology to validate if this person is my twin flame. So you could use, when I first read that person's question in the comments, I was like, well, what is keeping you from being in a state, your natural state of love? That's how we're born. So, what's keeping us from being in that state? So that's my question back to anyone who would like to know the answer to that, is that what is keeping you from being in your natural state? And that is why self-inquiry is so important. I know everyone's like, you and the self-inquiry. I'm telling you, it is the way. So that's why self-inquiry is so important, because it allows you to see what is keeping you from that mindful, like being present, being mindful, being in that natural state of love. We get so used to this idea of waking up in the morning and dreading the day, and or being afraid to do something, or being angry about something, or whatever it is that we're projecting throughout the day. So life isn't always perfect, but our mindset and how we look at things, and that helps create our resiliency. It helps make things a lot better. And we're able to move through things a lot more fluidly. So it's probably why, like, a lot of people who are, on a spiritual path, they have a whole other level of awareness that has them, examining different facets of their life and realizing that there are certain relationships, careers, jobs, whatever, that no longer suit them because they were derived from being in a place that maybe is too painful for them to be in anymore. I know I was that way for my marriage, and this was before all of this stuff. I look back on it and I'm like, at that time I had to make a choice for who I was at that time. That relationship was not working for me. And that really was the big catalyst in all of this that started my journey, and that began in 2012, late 2011, early 2012. All of that just went off. All that's triggered my whole, journey. So, and then all the twin flame stuff, and then other things that were part of this dark night of the soul. So it was stuff that was showing me things about myself. I was shedding that old person. I was shedding that person I was for a period of time, and then even who I was evolving into that I didn't like because of the situation I was in at that time. So that's why spending time with, like, honestly looking at your stuff, and like seeing what your cycles are, seeing what the relationship dynamics have been through your life, seeing looking at like what your twin flame is stirring up in you. And like if it's, one thing I just want to say, of course, making sure that when you make sure that you're safe and everything. Like if you're in a situation with your twin flame where it's like that they're being abusive towards you, then you need to leave that situation and get the right help. But if it's your own thoughts that are victimizing you, and this is the case with a lot of people, is that the triggers that all this brings up, what is that stuff showing you? And what is it telling you about yourself? What are you projecting onto this person? If you're not getting your way, if you're you're projecting, or like you're pushing or you're pulling, like if things aren't going your way in this situation, what is it triggering in you? And then many people are then projecting that onto their person about not being there, not doing this, not doing that, or they're pulling because they're afraid. So there's everyone's different. Everyone's situation is different. And that's why self-inquiry and looking at different tools and things that you can use to help you balance that energy. So when you see things come up, if there's something that, let's say every day you wake up with the idea that you are in, 100% state of love. Let's say you take that quiz and you're in that state of love. And then there are things that happen throughout the day that kind of like drop you down that state. Maybe you're down a little bit, you're down a peg. I think the next one is joy, and then you go down another notch, and I forget what that one is, and so on and so on. So it's like you can use that of to see where your vibe is. And also another way to do that too is just to practice some stillness. I practice about 20 minutes twice a day, being in stillness, and just using that time and allowing any thoughts to come up, allow them just to go. Like, it's one of those things, like, not to put a story around it or try to figure it out if like a thought comes up, because thoughts come up. There's like, we have thousands of them every day. So just making sure that sometimes thoughts are based on trauma and things that we tell ourselves, and then when things come up, we put a story around it based on our beliefs. So what I've found is the less time we spend doing that, because a lot of times we don't need to do that. It's one thing if you're in danger or you have to think about something, but putting a story around it because of our trauma or our beliefs, or we're afraid something's going to happen, or most of those things don't happen. There was a study done recently, I forget, by some university that studied the thoughts people had, and then and the actuality that they came true, and it was like most of them do not come true. So a lot of it is just like anxiety and fearful thinking, and whatever else you want to label it. So every day, we can wake up with this idea that we are waking up in a state of love. So how are we waking up in that state? We can reinforce that with practicing a lot of self-awareness and mindfulness, being aware of our thoughts, knowing that every day shit is going to come our way, but how do you handle it? And that is just in how we approach life. And that is, as individuals, getting clear on what our beliefs are. And then those beliefs create our thoughts, and they're spurred on by our emotions. And then we act accordingly. Now, some people keep it very inner, and they're very like inward. And the thing that I believe, and I have found that a lot of people who are on this path believe themselves, is that our thoughts are real. They're tangible. Even though you may not act on them, you may not speak them into power, they are still energy. And then that is an internal energy. And if you believe that we are energetic beings, then that inner world that you got going on there, like the emotions, if there's sadness or whatever, that's the stuff that can weigh us down and keep us in a lower vibration. So our vibration is then our frequency. And if you believe that we're energetic beings, then this frequency is what we're putting out there, and it's magnetizing back in accordingly. And if we believe in this whole twin flames theory that we are a shared soul, which is an energy, then that energy is perhaps felt most strongly with the person that you share that energy with. So either way, whether it's a twin flame or if it's any other, interaction or being, the energy is felt. It's perhaps why, you can really see where your energy's at when you're around like animals and children. So if you're around dogs or cats or kids, you can see like there's such a natural, they're so like not usually naturally in a state of love that they can pick up your vibe very quickly. So, but anyway, like that's what I believe in. So I believe in that we are an energy, and that we are a vibration as a result of like what we believe and what we're putting out into the world, whether it's actually like physically putting out into the world, or if it's energetically, thoughts, intellectual, mental, putting out into the world. So what's keeping you from being in your authentic, state of love? And that's where we start from. But then these other things come in and they pull us into other states. And they will do that. And not a lot of people have this kind of self-awareness. I'm confident and hopeful, just based on things that we're kind of seeing in general around the world, and then also things like topics and things that we see on social media and out here on YouTube. I feel like people are having a greater sense of self-awareness. I feel like that, we are shifting into more of that consciousness, and that's really exciting. So how do we learn from this? How do we see what is keeping us from that state of love? And then how do we manage it? Especially when things that come up sometimes are out of our control, and the only thing that we can control is what we think of it and how we react to it. So, it's like work. It's, we get paid to do a job, and it's like, this is a part of it, is that I sometimes have to put up with craziness or BS. And you have to determine if the compensation that you're receiving is enough for what you have to put up with and what you have to do. So it's the same thing with your thoughts. It's the same thing with these things, but the currency, is your time. So how much time do you want to spend, your precious time, do you want to spend on things that are not helping you move forward or maintain that vibration of love? So that's the point I got to with all of this stuff. And it's why I just started to detox from the content and stop putting any importance on the idea of the whole notion of this is to be in a relationship with a person. That right there is the big part of it, is that I looked at this as, this is a blessing. It is showing me something about myself and where I'm not being my best self, my favorite self, my highest self. And when I saw that I was using the triggers, at first it was hard because I was like, I was upset or mad or confused. And then after a while I was like, no, this is showing you something. What is it? And so I used self-inquiry to look at the emotion I was feeling and examine it. And I labeled it. I was like, it's just an emotion. It's not anything real necessarily. It could have been from something from my past, the old beliefs, whatever, you know. So I had to, you know, use that because sometimes we're on autopilot and we can get carried away by emotions, or emotions can, you know, take us one way or another. So again, self-inquiry and, you know, asking yourself that question about, you know, how do you shift into a state of love? It's like, what is keeping you from not being able to maintain being in a state of love? So check out that quiz, and I'll put the link in the description and in the pinned comment. But, you know, be honest with yourself, and that's always the most important thing in all of this, is being honest with yourself. And every time I do this, like, and maybe it's every year, I don't know what it is, ever since I've been on this path and came upon all this stuff, you know, I can look back on it, and every year I'm like, yep, I'm like, this is like the most I've known about this, the highest understanding I have about all of this. And then I swear it's like, you know, another year goes by and I'm like, wow, I've learned so much about myself this year. Like, and then that's like, you know, this year is the year I'll be like, I've learned so much about myself. This is like the high. And then, like, you know, next year I'll be like, wow, I learned so much about myself this year. But what I can say though, you know, in reflection about my understanding of all of this, is that every time I continue to focus on, you know, managing my stuff, you know, making sure I'm bringing it back to me, and I'm doing these things for like my good, that's when, you know, when I see things balance out, and I look back on it, I'm like, wow, I have like magnetized in this stuff. These are the things that, you know, 5 years ago, that I wanted to do. This channel and this website, I've been wanting to do a spiritual content website since 2015, before I even happened upon Twin Flame stuff. It was just going to be like spirituality and mindfulness and things like that in general. But I found one of my journals that I had it written down in, because I've owned this domain name for a while. And so it was really funny that, you know, I look back on it, it's like, I didn't realize it was going to be about Twin Flame stuff, but it evolved into something that was, you know, that's real for me. And I feel like I get a lot of joy out of like sharing this content and information. So it's pretty cool when you see how, like, you can look back on the things that you've done or are doing and have some gratitude for just where you know, how far you've come on this path, about who you are and how your emotions can influence you, and then also affect your human experience and the relationships that you have with other people and other things. This awareness is like a true gift. That's why I'm really grateful for this journey, as painful as it has been for me. Talking about all the self-inquiry stuff, if you listen to my other content, you know I'm a big fan of the Personal Development School, and I also love Leora's ebook. So I went the Personal Development School route first and learned about my attachment style, and just about attachment styles in general. It's been really helpful, just in relating and, you know, wanting to relate better to other people. So that was really helpful for me. It's a free quiz, and I think they have like a 7-day or a 14-day free trial or something like that right now. So that's a lot of time to actually dig into some really useful information and take some assessments. Or you can also choose like the Twin Flames story route. So you know who Leora is if you listen to my content, so you can check out those resources that I have about Leora, her ebook, and also some content that I found on her website from the Internet Wayback Machine. So you can use those to dig into understanding what's going on inside of you when all that inner world is bubbling up, and then you start projecting or ruminating, or that narrative that you have, the soundtrack that's going on. If you're going to have that soundtrack, like, make it a good one. Make it for your highest good. Make it for the highest good of others and the world. So that's where the rewiring of our subconscious comes into play. That's where developing your self-concept is so incredibly important. This isn't about being perfect. This is about being the perfect you. And that is going to ebb and flow your whole life. So it's important to do these exercises every so often, because we live in a fast-paced world and there's a lot of programming going on at the various channels that we interact with, and we can have this human experience and have a lot of fun and enjoy those things, but also from a place where maybe it's a healthier dynamics. And we know that this would be better for everyone in the world, because the world is a little nuts right now, but I've got high hopes. I'm optimistic. So check out those resources, all the stuff I put in the description and the pinned comment. These are the things that have helped me. And the key is, because a lot of people come by and they're like, where are the oracle readings? Where's this? Where's that? I love oracle readings. Trust me, they're so much fun. But the thing is that you can still enjoy them, but you're still going to have that pain if you're not dealing with this other stuff. So I go and read comments and the different readers and everything like that, and the projection, like the heaviness I feel when I'm reading comments, and just I can see where people are at in their emotional intelligence arc. So it's just that we all want to be loved, and we all want someone to love. And that's a beautiful thing. So how do we get back to that state of love? And some days it might be a little hard, but having this self-awareness, having some tools and little things that you can do to get you back there faster is what I talk about. And this is the stuff I use. And again, every day it's a journey. Some days vibing high, and other days, I want to elbow someone. So, we're going to have those days. Give yourself some grace, learn to connect to your emotions, better understand what they're informing you of. And that's where self-inquiry comes into play. So just focus on that. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. And go out there and live your most amazing fucking life, because that's what we're here to do. Of course, go check out my website, evolvedchit.com, and go to the Get Started page. There's lots of resources there. In the blog articles, I just talk about my experiences with stuff and tools and things that I have used and use that help me. So also I have a free ebook out there, the 7-Day Mindset Reset. It's just simple exercises to help you define your self-concept, and then tools to help you, ideas for tools and things that you can do to help you rewire your subconscious. And when you persist and consistently do this stuff, you get to a point where you don't need to do a lot of the rituals. I'm getting to that place where it's becoming more like muscle memory and things that I can apply and do. And I'm getting better at catching it. What is it telling me? Do I need to act on it? Yes? No? Okay, good. That's simple. Go live your life. Like, that's kind of the place where I'm trying to get to. So it doesn't have to be all fancy all the time, but sometimes we need it to be what we need it. So, and that's a very individual and personal thing. So I use tools like the ThinkUp app to record my own affirmations, and I still use it when I'm going through something or working on something new or have an idea and I want to reinforce like a mindset. I'll record new affirmations, play them while I'm sleeping, or even when I'm just cleaning or whatever. So you can use these things to help you continue to level up and challenge your thinking and your beliefs and your mindset. Because it is about, evolving evolving our consciousness. And sometimes that requires personal revolutions. And that's what we're here to do, is learn, explore, and grow as souls. And wherever we go from here is where we go from here. So this is just a reminder that you are loved, you are amazing, you are awesome, you are necessary, and you are really freaking needed right now. So step into your power. And until next time, I'm sending you lots of love and good vibes for your journey. Bye.